for the week. And now it's time for the UT Sports Report, sponsored by the Cherokee Group and the Klein Dental Arts SEC Notebook, featuring former UT assistant football coach Ray Trail, Daily Times sports editor Troy Provo-Heron, and veteran sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons, along with Blount County Sports Hall of Famer Donnie Moore. Guys, this past Thursday night, the Tennessee Vols entered NCAA tournament play, and they hung on to defeat Louisiana 58-55. Coach Trail, Tennessee pretty well limped into the NCAA tournament, having lost 4 of their last 6 games, and they really limped through their opener. Game barely coming away with a win, and by golly, I'll tell you what, they went up 9 at the half, and I said to myself, I'm going to go on to bed. And then I thought, well, I'll stick around and see the first part of the second half. And they went up 18. I said, what are you sitting here for? Go on to bed. And then I said, well, let's give it another minute or two. The next thing I know, 18 goes to 12, and 12 goes to 8, and get right down to the end. And it's a 5-point game with about 3 minutes to go. And I'm going, what the heck is going on here? And they ended up winning it, just hanging on. 58 to 55, and I really didn't think, watching that game, I don't want to take anything away from Louisiana, but I didn't think they were a very good basketball team, Coach. I think they were just an average team compared to what I've seen in tournaments so far. Huh?
Well, I think Tennessee did exactly what you wanted to do, and that was went to sleep at the half. And instead, but they did it. I mean, you held on there for a little while into the third quarter.
Yeah.
But they went to sleep after the first half. They thought they had that game won.
Yeah.
And all we got to do is coast on through here.
Yeah.
And they forgot to tell the other team that's what they were going to do.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you what. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This Tennessee basketball team, they'll drive you to drinking. And if you're going to watch them play, you better have your Jack Daniels handy, because it's going to go down to the last couple of minutes, every game they play, because that's the style they play, and they'll make a nervous wreck out of you, Marcus, won't they, huh? Or something.
They will, and speaking of, if you need to get your drink on, we're at Bluetick Live today, so let me do a reminder that if you want to come watch you want to come watch the games in the March Madness, they are open with all the TVs.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe the liquor stores will run a special. I haven't checked, but they ought to be running specials during the tournament.
They don't have to, as bad as we played.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have special or non-special, buddy.
Yeah, well, one thing that showed up, in the game, and is the fact that, again, Tennessee has been inconsistent for the most part, the last half of the year, and it showed up again against Louisiana, Marcus. Down the stretch.
They looked so good, probably from the 18-minute mark to maybe the 11-minute mark in the second half. They built that 18-point lead. They looked so good. And then, maybe it was getting out of that zone. Maybe it was something. I don't know what happened, but, you let the Cajuns hit 2 threes, and suddenly Tennessee's in trouble, and they couldn't execute anything. And now some of that was some good defense, but some of that was just Tennessee not playing very well.
Yeah.
Throwing it away, missing foul shots, not getting rebounds.
I'll tell you, they gave Louisiana, Donnie Moore, in the last 3 minutes plenty of opportunities to win that basketball game.
They sure did.
And Louisiana didn't take advantage of it because the Vols played excellent defense. I mean, they held them to 55 points. Sure. And, if you hold somebody to 50s in a game, likely you're going to come out to win. And that's what they hang their hat on, and they held them to 55 points. But they couldn't manage any offense themselves. No. But defense won the game for them against Louisiana. There's no doubt about it, especially down the stretch when they needed it. But something else, Donnie, that I noticed is the lack of point guard play really showed up. I think
it sure did. They missed a little bit so much.
Right.
When he's out of the game, they just don't have a point guard. And Vescovy wasn't in the game for a lot of the second half. He had 2 fouls and then 3. And he kept him on the bench.
They did the best.
Kept him on the bench.
They did the best job against Vescovy, Coach Trail, that I've seen anybody do all year long. They were all over him. When he got the ball, they were not allowing him to get set to shoot it, and 3 points is all he was able to manage. But I'm thinking back, and we've talked about the way Tennessee plays. The fact they don't have a transition game. They play great half-court defense. the best in the country. I think they show that. And then they play the half-court offense down at the other end, and it's been up and down, as far as their offense goes. It can be real good or it can be real bad, but you don't have any transition game. And I'm just watching that Louisiana game. As much as they turned the ball over and they missed shots, Louisiana did, how many opportunities they could have had with a transition game if they'd just pushed the ball up the court a few times. They just don't do it at all.
I compare everybody playing. There's no discipline on offense. There's no discipline on offense, and then there's no. If you don't have, and which I can't understand why you would have one guy that could run your offense. I mean, that's like going into a football game with one quarterback. He gets bunged up. Who are you going to put in there? The guy is not very good. Goes in. Well, I mean, that's a mistake. Yeah. And when you got 15 players over there on the bench and you can't have a substitute guy that could come in and play and run your offense, because I don't know what the offense is. I mean, it's not like in football you call plays. I don't guess they do that in basketball. But they should figure out some way to get on the same page, everybody at the same time.
Yeah, I even have a hard time when they call a timeout in a crucial situation to set up a play.
Yeah,
because they set up the play and it looks like the same play they ran before they called the timeouts. I don't know a lot of times what they're doing.
The prime example of what you're talking about happened to Purdue last night. I mean, they called timeout and went over there, and I don't know what they called. I mean, they came in and threw the ball in the corner, and I mean, I don't know what they did.
I'm telling you, Virginia.
Yeah.
Purdue.
Yeah.
Tennessee. They all play Waller ball. They play Waller ball. They play defense, and they play the half-court offense, and they just chuck. They chuck the transition game, and when you do that, Marcus, you give everybody an opportunity to beat you.
To stay in the game.
And to stay in the game, and you give yourself an opportunity to beat somebody that might be better than you, but you leave yourself wide open to getting beat by some. You give them an opportunity because you're taking time off the clock to do all of that. Huh?
Yeah, you do. And so, we've seen the downside and the upside of it both already in the first game, so goodness knows what we'll see today. But Donnie mentioned that when they played without Vescovy and you had James running the point majority of the first half. When that first happened, when he picked up his second foul, the thing that blew me away, because the Cajuns must have been as confused as anybody else, because you look down there, they were double-teaming Plavsic.
Yeah.
The guy averaging 5 points a game, and they're double-teaming him out in the paint.
Right.
Why?
Right. Just foul him. Lord, just put everybody on the bench in the game and foul him.
Whoever was supposed to be guarding
30%
Vescovy didn't know what else to do with himself, so he just went down there and helped out.
Yeah. Hey, two areas of concern. And I'm looking at the statistics after the basketball game, at 3-point shots, Tennessee was 4 for 16 for 25%. They were 12 for 21 for 57% at the free throw line, and some of those were the front end of one-on-ones there at the end of the game. They had 18 turnovers. They had Key and Meshack, the only two balls that were in double figures, and Vescovy got 3 points in the basketball game. And I'm sitting here thinking, if somebody would give me those statistics, I don't care who you're playing, I'd say we got beat.
Yeah, I would too.
So I think they, in some respect, they got away with the game right there. A lot of people are calling it a trap game. Maybe it was a trap game, and there was a lot of experts out there that thought Louisiana would beat Tennessee in the game.
They were a popular upset pick.
They really were a popular upset pick because of Tennessee being shorthanded at the guard position and not playing well down toward the end of the year. But this tournament is all about. It doesn't matter whether you play well. It's survive and go on, Marcus. And you can take a bad basketball game and you just shove it right around and say, well, we survived that one. Now we go to the next one. So you may see an entirely different Tennessee basketball team out there against Duke today. Really.
I tell you what, if it's not.
Well, we'll probably see both.
They might as well go ahead and order their dinner because they're going to get there early.
Yeah.
But I mean, 20 million people, not brackets, and nobody has a bracket left after the first 2 days.
Yeah.
Nobody picked those.
Yeah.
So you never know what's going to happen in this thing.
Well, Tennessee, I didn't see anything outside, Donnie, a little bit of zone defense, and I thought it was a good time to play it. And Louisiana struggled with it. I'm really surprised it didn't stay in it longer. Or, as Marcus said, come back to it later on in the game when they made the 18-point run to cut it down to 5 to maybe play some zone in there. But, but other than that, it looked like the same old Tennessee team that we've seen all year long. No transition, outstanding defense on the defensive end down there, forcing turnovers, they forced Louisiana way out there on the court. They forced them out on the offense. They're great at playing defense. There's no doubt about it. They're going to hang their hat on it, and then they're going to come down and hope that they can manufacture some shots down there and get away with it. Hold you in the 50s. They got to hold you in the 50s. If you get into the 60s or the 70s, it's going to get real iffy, Donnie.
Sure is. Yeah. I think you need to apply for a patent, Mike, on that term that you coined for this Tennessee team, that Waller ball.
Waller ball. Maybe Goatees can print us up some shirts. And I think against Duke today, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but Duke, that game tips off at 2:40 on CBS today. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to be Waller ball again today. They're going to try to get Duke out of their game, and they're going to try to slow the game down, and they're going to try to take it right down to the last 2 or 3 minutes and hope to get them. I mean, that's
true.
That's what it's going to be. It's going to be nerve-wracking as all heck, and if you don't have a very solid heart, you better just kind of wait till it's over. And then check the score because it's going to be that type of game. You're going to Waller and Waller and Waller. They're going to turn it over some. They're going to miss some shots. They're going to miss some free throws, and they're going to go down there. And the only thing they're playing really consistent for the most part is defense. Defense. They're going to try to win the game. Yeah.
Boring as crap.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get the ball, you just wonder what's going to happen here.
Throw it around, wait till the shot clock's almost expired. Shoot
I know it. I know it. And the thing is, what I can't understand now, that I'm not a basketball authority. I mean.
But you watch a lot of it.
I watch the tar out of it, but the thing is, it like you said, everybody tries to play the same thing. And I don't know how one player on your team, I mean, you would think out of 15 you'd have somebody else that could play that position. I mean, I think it's the dumbest thing in the world. It's like in football, you go in with one quarterback, you're in trouble. I mean, if you hadn't got anybody else, you're in trouble.
Right.
And that's the way we look like we were in trouble because we don't have that one guy out front. It looks to me like that's the time for somebody else to step up and do their thing. And the way we work it, we don't allow that.
I can't tell you how big a basketball game this is to Tennessee today and Rick Barnes, because they've talked about him not going performing in the NCAA tournament, but man, I'm telling you, you're looking at all these brackets all over the country right now. Who's got a better bracket to the Elite Eight and maybe the Final Four than Tennessee right now? They get by Duke. They got the winner of Fairleigh Dixon and Florida Atlantic, and I'm not taking anything away from either one of those clubs, but I'd rather face them than I would Marquette or Kansas State or Baylor or some of these other teams that these other guys got. They've got it set up where they can go to the Elite Eight if they can get by this one today, Marcus, huh?
Well, you could, but
we got to play it.
Do you really want to play Cinderella? I mean, you can get by there, but somebody's going to be in the Sweet 16 from between Florida Atlantic and Fairlane that you're looking at two teams that nobody has in their bracket being there.
But they're
going to be in the Sweet 16 playing for an Elite Eight spot.
But they got a whole week to wake up. Those two teams right now, they're in a la land right now. Everything.
Well, they're going to have. They need the chance to go home because chances are they didn't pack for 4 days. They only packed for 2.
I guess, but that's and. Tennessee played Loyola, wasn't it, a few years ago? Loyola of Chicago, and they were the kind of the Cinderella team, and we thought we had it all set up there, and then Loyola got them. What does Tennessee need to do today, Marcus, to get by Duke?
they need to play like they did against Kansas and not like they did against Kentucky.
Right.
If you're going on blue blood comparison, there's your comparison points. The Tennessee team that showed up and shot the lights out of Allen Fieldhouse is the team that needs to play today. Because if it's the team that struggled both times against Kentucky and couldn't figure out how to stop them or to score, this will be a long game for a long reason.
Donnie, Duke's going to pose some problems because they're good inside, they're good outside, they got a transition game, they shoot free throws pretty well. They do all of those. They check all the areas that some of the boxes we don't check.
You're right. You're right. And like I said before, they've won 10 straight.
Yeah.
And they're playing. They've peaked at the right time.
They're playing their best.
That's what tournament ball's all about.
They're playing their best basketball.
Well, it's because they're so young. They have 6 guys that have never seen this postseason before.
Yeah. I wrote some things down here. I think it's important for Tennessee to get off to the good start. If you find that they get off to a good start, then they can control the tempo of the basketball game to a certain extent. You let Duke out fast, and then you have to play catch-up. They're not very good. Tennessee's not very good at playing catch-up basketball at any point really in the game. And they need to control the tempo of the basketball game, get some points in the paint. Get some points down low, against Duke and hit some threes. They were absent the last game.
Yeah.
I thought Louisiana did a really good job on our perimeter people and forced Duke into taking some bad shots, forced them out of their game. I think that's going to be a whole lot more difficult against Duke than it was against Louisiana, Coach Terrell.
Yeah. I tell you what, Duke right now, well, it's like Donnie was saying there, as the time we go back and say, we beat Kansas. I mean, those early games don't count for nothing because most people looking for they're putting their team together, getting the right people in the right place at the right time is very important in basketball. And all Kansas has done is got better and better and better. And I guess
And Gonzaga's another. We played them in a scrimmage game, pre-exhibition game. Beat the living daylights out of them, and now Gonzaga. They may be a Final Four over there on the other side. Of course, they got to deal with UCLA over there in that bracket, but nonetheless. And then you got Michigan State, who they scrimmaged there early in the year, and they're still in, and they're going to be playing Marquette. So, if you're looking at Duke, Marcus, one thing about they're young. This is a young Duke, very young team, and a lot of people have said, hey, Duke's pretty strong, but the ACC is not very strong, and that's why they're playing well because the teams in the ACC have not shown that they're as good as the other teams in the country, and then you don't have Mike Krzyzewski sitting on the bench. So
but he's doing a really good commercial. Have you seen his commercial?
No,
it's good. It's a good commercial for him.
Yeah.
But I just the past is in the past. That's just like that team the other night that I don't even know where they're located, FMU or whatever that name was that won. I mean, who'd ever heard of them? I don't even know where they're from.
Talking about Fairleigh Dickinson?
Yeah, where are they from? Where'd they come from?
I don't know. I can tell you.
I tell you what, that's the thing about this deal right now. As far as what you're trying to do is trying to put people in the places, and that's who'd ever thought that team would win?
Yeah.
Who'd ever thought that two or three teams in the top 10 that went down?
I can tell you this: in Indiana, there's two kinds of fans. There's Indiana fans and there's Purdue fans.
Yeah.
And last night after Purdue got beat, I went to Facebook just to see what everybody was saying on there. Of course, there wasn't very many Purdue people on there last night, but there were Indiana people, and there were comments like, yeah, kind of the same old story. Indiana 5 national championships in basketball and Purdue 0. Yeah. That was on there quite a bit. And then, of course, they're the Boilermakers, and one of their sayings was boiler up. And some Indiana fan put on their belly up. They bellied up. That was pretty good. And then they had the train, the Boilermaker train going over the cliff. And then somebody put on there, breaking news, there's been another train derailment in the United States. I like that one. That was pretty good. But you get all these different comments. But, boy, what a – you're thinking you got all year long you've had good shooters on the outside. You haven't made mistakes. You got the player of the year inside. You're huge inside. You look like you could really make a tremendous run in the tournament. And then you show nothing. You just show nothing.
They went into that game thinking that their big guy inside, but the defense that team played was they double-teamed that guy inside. Every time the ball went to this side, the backside forward would come and double-team that big guy. They had a guy in front of him and a guy behind him. And when he went to the other way, they'd go the other forward would come in and play behind that guy, and they had a pretty good plan to stop that big guy inside, and their outside guys couldn't hit nothing.
Right.
I mean, they'd be wide open and they couldn't hit.
But all in all, Evie was so much bigger than anybody that Fairleigh Dixon had on the inside. I mean, the closest player, looked like it came to his lower chest in there, and you're thinking in the last 7 minutes and you're not hitting well outside, you got the player of the year inside, get him the ball down there and let him at least, he's a pretty good foul shooter, at least give him an opportunity to go to the foul line or give him an opportunity to hit. But Marcus made a great point. He had one shot in the last 7 minutes. Is that right?
Yeah, he had one attempt.
What in the world?
And he was, he looked exhausted. Purdue looked exhausted. That little team ran them to death because Purdue's not going to leave that man-to-man defense, and they didn't.
No,
so you had him on the other end running side to side, side court to side court, trying to defend that little 6'2" guard. He was wearing him out.
Sure was.
He was chasing him all over the court.
Donnie Moore, when I saw Missouri play Tennessee this year, and they played an up-tempo, try to get them going, 94 feet, a lot of quickness. I'm pretty impressed with Missouri. But that team last night, that Fairleigh Dickinson, it looked like they put Missouri in slow motion last night, Coach Trail. You know what I mean? They were quick.
They had, I tell you what they did. They got the track team and put them in the ball game. Because those guys were fast. I mean, when they went down the court, they went.
Hell.
It wasn't no jogging along. I mean, it was like
40 minutes.
Yeah.
40 minutes, not a whole lot of substituting. 40 minutes up, 40 minutes down. Looked like their adrenaline was on high for 40 minutes. And you're thinking, Marcus, how can they do that? And then after the game, Coach Trail and I was talking about, like, they didn't slow down at all. They're jumping all over everybody. It looked like they still had another 30 minutes in them as far as energy goes.
I'm not sure they ever stopped. They may still be over there. Unless
jumping up and down.
Unless they ran them out of there late last night, they may have still been doing that on the court.
I'll tell you what, now, that was a basketball team that was in shape. And, I mean, the big guy for Purdue, he was tired after about the first 15 minutes of the game.
Well, normally they substitute him, and they got in trouble last night. They couldn't get him out of the game. They couldn't take him out because they were in trouble.
Yeah.
And
they had nothing else.
No.
They had no other offense beside him last night.
They couldn't make a shot for nothing outside with anybody.
It's like a team full of yippy dogs versus a team full of St. Bernards.
That's right.
I thought the call that was most questionable is when there was 0.2 seconds left on the clock and you were down 5 and Purdue took a timeout, and I'm going, why are you taking a timeout right here? Maybe you should have taken that timeout, maybe about a minute or two ago when you were in trouble.
And the thing is, they went over and they called timeout. Well, they called 2 timeouts there right in the last 2-3 minutes. And they called timeout, and they came back, and what shot did they take? In the corner, and the guy's in his face.
Right.
That was what they put in at the timeout.
Well,
God,
they
man.
could have, because they missed all them shots all the time with nobody on them. They said, hey, wait till somebody gets on you, and maybe we'll get
maybe you can hit it.
Maybe it'll go in.
That was the damnedest thing I ever saw.
Contested shot.
Yeah.
That was the dumbest timeout calls I've ever seen. I mean, you're behind 5.
And I thought they had a guard go to the free throw line. He stepped up there, and they really need to have the 2 free throws. And, boy, he hit the 2 free throws, and I think it took him within maybe 1.
Yeah.
And he pulls him out of the game, and I'm going, golly, what are you pulling him out for? He's got his confidence now. He hit one from the outside at the free throw line. Leave him in the game. But and the guy, the player, kind of looked at him like, "What are you doing? You know, what are you taking me out for?"
Well, I think everybody kind of thought the same thing. I mean, when that big guy started huffing and puffing in about the middle of the second quarter, middle of the first half, they were in trouble then.
Sure.
Yeah.
They were in trouble because they had built their whole thing was around him.
Yeah.
And so all that other team did was they gonna take him out of the game and now see what you got. And they didn't have anything.
Yeah. Well, you know, let's just tell you how long it's been. I know a lot of people I know they're sick because they probably had Purdue going, they may have had them in the Elite Eight, I don't know, or maybe beyond. But I'll tell you what, history wasn't on their side, because the last time that Purdue made a run in the NCAA tournament, I was a senior in high school. 1969. I remember it like it was yesterday, because they went all the way to the final game and they got beat by UCLA in the finals. And they came back to West Lafayette, and about a week or two after that game, I made a visit to Purdue, and they had a cookout with all those players, and I was there at that cookout, and that was Rick Mount's senior year. They had Mount, they had a great team. They had a big guy inside. They had Mount, and then they had a great guard by the name of Billy Keller that went on and played with the Indiana Pacers. Tremendous basketball team. I mean, he was a great leader out there, and floor general, and shoot. I mean, they just had a great squad, and then they went all the way through. But that's been it. That's been it. That's pretty much been the run they've had. They've always been knocked off in the first round or the second round, and I think this is the fifth time that the coach, their painter at Purdue, has been beaten by a double-digit seeded team in the tournament. The fifth time. I mean, that's disheartening, huh?
Well,
Sure
I've always been, you have 15 players. You can't ride one horse in every race and expect to win. You're not going to win. And that was the thing is they thought the big guy was going to come in and dominate everything. Well, they wore him out. They were running up and down the floor. He'd be the last guy. If you watched them when they went down the floor, he's the last guy coming in.
Yeah.
And, he was worn out in the first half.
Yeah.
And then it just got, did he ever take an outside shot? All he ever takes is that lay it up in the
right down in his side.
Yeah, that's all. So they take that away, and there's nothing left.
No,
nothing out.
They live and die by the three with their guards out there.
Yeah.
And they've sort of been like Tennessee, Purdue has, because they made a slide right there at the end of the year. They walked into backed into the Big Ten title.
Yeah.
They lost, and then the other team lost, and that's how they won the title. They backed into that deal. They didn't make a very good run in the Big Ten tournament. I mean, it's sort of like Tennessee's had down toward the end here. Hopefully that's not a bad omen for the Vols today, but that's sort of been what's happened there at Purdue.
Well, I tell you what, the Vols today are playing the hottest team going into the tournament.
Maybe the hottest team in the tournament.
Dadgum right. Them and Kansas are hot.
Yeah. Hey, it's time to turn the page, and next up is the local scoreboard and Mark It Down featuring Marcus Fitzsimmons. You're listening to the Goatee Sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
For over 90 years, Anderson Lumber Company in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. Locally owned, so the money made here stays here. Whether you're renovating a kitchen, bath, new floors, doors, or windows, Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store and can take care of you from design to install. We welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa for all your home's needs, or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber since 1925.
Make the big play with MVP Money Tools from Knoxville TVA Employees Credit Union. With KTVA ECUs, contactless debit card, direct deposits that hit up to 2 days early, credit cards that earn cashback reward points, and loans with competitive rates. Add all 4 MVP Money Tools to build your financial roster. It's everything you need to win financially.
Join us now.
Federally insured by NCUA. Equal Opportunity Housing Lender. Restrictions may apply. Call for details. 800-467-5427.
Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
We all want our loved ones to be safe. Denso in Maryville is at the forefront of creating technology for safer vehicles. Join the automotive industry with Denso in a fast, challenging, clean, and safe environment. They offer great benefits and competitive pay, as well as a convenient on-site healthcare facility, cafes, fitness center, and more. Start your future now. Entry-level production positions start at $16 an hour for second or third shift. Visit densocareers.com/Maryville to learn more and apply. Klein Dental Arts is your new home for compassionate, worry-free dentistry. You can see Dr. Todd Klein and his staff at their dental home at 1905 West Broadway Avenue across from Weigel's. Klein Dental Arts offers complete dental care for the whole family, including 24-hour emergency care, flexible hours, and thoughtful care for patients with dental anxiety. Let Klein Dental Arts be your new dental home. Discover the difference and find your smile again. Call today at 983-0941. Merlin's Music World in Maryville is owned and operated by Dylan Davis and has been a fixture in Maryville since 1987. Guitars, amplifiers, lessons, sound system, and video system installations are products available at Merlin's. Merlin's also offers a 24-track digital recording studio featuring audio engineer Rusty Chambers. Visit Merlin's at 1920 East Lamar Alexander Parkway or call 977-0093.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards along with the rest of our broadcast crew, and now it's time for the local scoreboard, sponsored by Mandy B. Street Realty. And Donnie Moore, there's a lot going on everywhere, and by golly, I know you're going to talk about it, but hats off to Alcoa basketball. By golly, we got somebody from the county here that got a legitimate shot at a state championship, huh?
Indeed we do, Mike, and we'll talk about that first right here on the Mandy B. Street Realty local scoreboard. High school basketball first up on the agenda here on the local scoreboard. In the boys Class 2A state quarterfinals, which happened on Thursday down at Middle Tennessee State University at the Murphy Center, Alcoa versus Pearl Cone. The Tornadoes were victorious in that state quarterfinals matchup with Pearl Cone, 65-62, and they survived and advanced, as they have a tendency to do. They're playing really well right now. And yesterday in the semifinals, last night Alcoa, well, it wasn't last night. It was it was a night game? Yeah, it was a night game, wasn't it? Alcoa beat Chattanooga Brainerd 71-68. A little bit closer. Well, it wasn't the same amount of margin of victory right there. 71-68. Alcoa scored a few more points, but the outcome was the same. The Tornadoes are victorious once again, while they awaited the other semifinal game, Giles County versus Douglas, team out of Memphis, and Douglas came out the victors in that game last night. And so Alcoa will take on Douglas tonight at 7:30 Eastern Daylight Time, which will be, 6:30?
6:30 if you're going to the game.
6:30 if you're going to the game, so that's local time.
Your phone will say 6:30 when you go across the plateau if you're driving over to watch the game.
It will. So Alcoa versus Douglas. And so we wish the Tornadoes all the luck in the world. And just have a good game. Play your normal game, because they play a good brand of basketball. And they're fighting for a state championship tonight down at Murphy Center on the campus of MTSU.
They are, and, when you looked at Alcoa's draw in the bracket, I was just thinking, oh, man, this couldn't have lined up any worse for them. Because the first round, you've got Pearl Cone, so you're going to be playing a school that if there's a long distance rivalry, Alcoa and Pearl Cone is a long distance rivalry because of football.
Firebirds always have it in for the Tornadoes.
Because of football and because of that. But you're playing one of the best school out of Nashville in your classification.
Mm-hmm.
And if you beat them, you're going to get the best school out of Chattanooga.
Sure.
And that's a tough road to go. Whereas Douglas, I'm not saying they didn't play as well, but they had to get through York Institute and Giles County.
Yeah.
I mean, Alcoa's already played two of the best teams in the state of that Final Eight. They've played both of their opponents were Final Four caliber opponents.
Right.
So
Douglas, I've never heard of.
They're North Memphis.
Yeah, they're a North Memphis team.
It's an old school, but it's
recently rebuilt. Well, rebuilt in 2008.
Yeah.
They got in 2008.
They got a new building, but it's going to. I mean, the fact Alcoa got there is great. I mean, I think it's first time since '92. Maybe they've been in the championship game.
Mm-hmm.
So they've made the state tournament a couple of times. Had some good teams that couldn't get through that bracket, but great for them.
Sure.
And you get a good postseason addition unexpectedly with a transfer and been a difference maker, giving somebody else for them to use besides Jovan as a scorer.
What's been impressive to me about Alcoa is they didn't really get off to a really good start this year. It was just a so-so start, but boy, they just really caught fire about midway, and it's just they've been on fire since. Huh?
Yeah.
I looked it up because I was trying to remember, because you remember we had them in here. We were talking about they were on a win streak, and then they lost that regular season finale against Oak Ridge.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 23 games they've played since Christmas, they've lost 2. They lost to Bearden on January 3rd. So in their last 22 games, the only loss has been at Oak Ridge.
And that's a tough place to play.
So when you talk about you can lose a game in the postseason in Tennessee and you still get another chance. Alcoa didn't lose any games in the postseason.
Right, they're going to be.
They've won their way straight through.
They win tonight. They're a legitimate state champ. That's the way I describe them.
There you go, Mike.
No, there's no asterisk beside Alcoa's name if they win today.
There's no we were state champions but weren't district champion things.
No. They've played their way through.
You know the thing exactly what you're talking about, y'all are talking about here, to me is the teams that Duke and Kansas got off to a rough start, and they just kept getting better and better and better. And some of these teams stay on the same level, then you go into the tournament, you had never been up here to do that. But those teams like Duke and Kansas have been coming. Hell, we beat Kansas. Kansas got beat by somebody like 30 points early in the year.
Yeah. And you can throw Kentucky in there to a certain extent too, because
they
were really. It didn't look like they were even going to make the tournament.
I didn't think they would.
Well, that describes Alcoa perfectly. They started off. With ups and downs, but it's been all ups from since Christmas time.
They made that first transition when the football players came back.
Yes.
They got that worked out during Christmas, put on a good run, and they've gotten better, and done a good job at like I said, adding Brandon at the last minute.
Yeah.
And adapting him into the lineup.
Of Brandon into the line, that's a shot in the arm.
Because that can make you that can break all your synergy. That could break everything you got going, and they worked him right in.
That's what I said. That's the key to the whole thing. When you are playing the number of games that teams play now, those first 8 or 10 games really should be just like practice games. Whether you win, lose, but you grow from them. And some teams, Tennessee has not grown in their deal. I mean, they came out all hot and went to number 2 in the country, and then they went this way. I mean, it's hard to maintain that thing from start to finish is what I'm saying. Yeah. And the way those teams do good is they keep getting better and better and better. Well, they take a loss, they grow from it, and they get better.
Yeah, and go ahead, Don.
I was just going to say Brandon's addition has been – that shows you that what his attitude has been and his – how seamless his integration into the team has been, Marcus, and I can't wait to see how he's going to work out with football.
It takes a special situation, a special type of athlete, and a special type of team But you add somebody in the district championship game at that point, you're in the you're 2 games into the postseason, and you're adding a new piece in, and it's worked.
Yeah.
They made it work.
And what a job Alcoa's athletic department. They've won the state championship in football. And the David Bauman and his girls team, 1 game away from going to the state tournament.
And who knows what would have happened if they had Macy Ridge.
Here you got the boys in the championship game. I'm telling you, that's a pretty good start.
It's pretty strong.
Kind of makes you think that each program kind of thrives off another program when you go to another sport.
It
makes the other it makes the other sport. Spring sports now, this is what they've done here. We got to pick up a notch here. And
expectations are high.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of difference in a sports program, and they do
really
real well with it at Alcoa High School.
Yeah, they do.
If we want to continue with that, because we're going into spring sports with the first weekend, you have a player on Alcoa's high school team that is playing on the pro development team in Knoxville, who's playing on both, and you've got a track team that I would have a hard time finding somebody that's not going to call them the favorite to repeat at state right now.
That's right.
I mean,
they won the state championship in track last year too. So,
I mean, Coach Frere, not to put the monkey on Chris Frere's back, but
of course not.
I don't mind doing that. Let's go and put it on there. I expect them to get back and try again.
Their softball program's strong. Baseball program is strong. I mean, these kids can play.
Well, we've interrupted your scoreboard, Donnie.
That's okay.
Let's get off basketball.
I don't have a whole lot right now
in
the rest of the sports. It's spring break, so they're not doing a whole lot of playing. They're doing some traveling, and I've got a couple of baseball scores is all I've got right now. Marysville Christian School traveled to Cherokee, and we're not real happy with the results. They got beat 11-1. Heritage is playing in the what is it? The Play for a Cure tournament somewhere.
Swinging for a cure, playing for a cure. Something.
Yeah, something like that.
I think there's 4 satellite sites, and I think they're all in action today. Because there's games at Heritage, William Blunt, and Bearden, I think, today.
Yes, Heritage is playing Station Camp today at 11:30. Greenback played at Lenore City yesterday, was defeated 13-3. And William Blunt plays Silverdale Academy out of Chattanooga today at 3 o'clock.
I think they're turning 2 games. I think they're playing.
That's one of them.
I think they're playing a game at William Blunt, and then I think they have to run over to West Knoxville and play a night game tonight in the nightcap of this tournament, if I remember the schedule correctly.
Good deal. Thanks for that update.
But it's, the weather. I think yesterday threw them off a little bit, maybe with the weather.
Yeah. Boy, it's cold to play.
Because it was cold. That shower that came through came just at the wrong time for baseball.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to try to catch that up a little bit today. And
good deal.
That schedule. Check the website because I know the schedule is going to maybe take some tweaks depending on what was going on.
Good deal. Thanks for the update, Marcus. That's it for the Mandy B Street Realty local scoreboard today. And now we're going to kick it over to our veteran sports writer, Marcus Fitzsimmons, for his feature, Mark It Down, after I tell you that you're listening to WKCE 105.1 FM and 1180 AM Mid-Century Radio. Marcus, it's all yours.
Well, thanks, Donnie. We're going to make this up as we go along this morning. We seem to have a miscommunication somewhere along the way, and we are guest list for Mark It Down. So we're going to do what we do best and improvise around here.
Yes, we do.
So I want to go back. I've got a question for Mike Edwards here.
Fire away.
You got the bracket sitting right there beside you. A lot of action today and tomorrow, 16 more good games. But if you were to turn these around and make this football, which of these games would you like to see as a football game from what we have for this round, the second round? Because I know in my head, I know which one I would pick.
Oh, Texas and Penn State.
You nailed it.
Texas and Penn State if it's a football game.
But Alabama?
Yeah.
That's not a bad matchup. Alabama, Houston?
Alabama and Houston? Oh,
no, not Alabama.
Alabama and Maryland.
Maryland? That'd be not a bad football game.
And Houston makes a good game. I think there's some good games in here. I'm wondering if we shouldn't have like some kind of vote instead of having these teams arrange these preseason games 6 years in advance or whatever, when you never know who's going to be any good. Maybe do it. It's just as easy. Do it off basketball. Just say whoever you play in the second round of the NCAA tournament, that's who your football team's going to open the season with.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
No.
It makes as much sense as any of these others.
Hey, while we're on the NCAA tournament, SEC had 8 teams, Marcus, go into the tournament. 6 of them are still alive. Mississippi State, I think, lost to Pitt by 1 point.
Yeah, they did.
And close game. And then I guess the biggest disappointment has been Texas A&M after finishing second, one game behind Alabama in the regular season, and the good run they had in the tournament. And they were given a number 7 seed, and there was a lot of controversy about the decision to give them a 7. A lot of people thought it should have been a lot higher, but they were disappointed. They just weren't in their game at all.
They weren't, and we talked. There were no brackets left, but outside of the big Cinderella that they were talking about, when you talk about Fairleigh Dickinson and all that, the one that actually knocked out the last few brackets was Texas A&M. It was them dropping that game, took out the last ones about an hour after Purdue lost.
And we haven't spent much time on this, but there were some teams that didn't get in, and of course a lot of those teams are playing in the NIT. But you look at Clemson, and you say, well, the ACC weren't all that strong this year, but North Carolina State got in, and Clemson beat North Carolina State 3 times. Clemson beat them 3 times during the year and finished 23-10, and they took North Carolina State over them. And then in the SEC, our league that we follow all year long, there probably wasn't a team that was any hotter down the stretch and tournament-wise and so forth. Vanderbilt, and they were 20-12, and I think they were probably 1 game away from maybe getting in, but they beat Tennessee, they beat Auburn, they beat Mississippi State, and there was teams that were put into the NCAA tournament that didn't have winning SEC records. I don't think Mississippi State had a winning SEC record, but Vandy was 11-7 in the league, and I
agree with you.
I think they
got left out.
I think that I would have probably taken them over Mississippi State.
Yeah,
I certainly would have.
I would too. I think Vandy got hosed.
They did, and they're playing tonight in the NIT in the second round.
Yeah,
and good on them for not being one of those teams that got into the NIT and just let disappointment get the best of them and just didn't show up and lose their first game. Because that happened to a couple of programs.
I think Jerry Stackhouse handled that really well, because he could have badmouthed, say, hey, we were one of the hottest teams in the SEC, and you overlooked it. And when you say things like that, it affects your ball club, you see.
Oh, yeah.
But he went in and say, hey, look, we're going to the NIT. We're happy to be there. We're going to get better. We're going to go after a championship here. Put it all on the line, and I just think he did a great job of handling that, because it could have been mishandled, Marcus, the way it turned out. Rutgers up in the Big Ten, they beat, of course, I don't know what this means now, but they beat Purdue at Purdue, which is a big win, and they also beat Indiana.
Yeah.
And they had some big wins in the
Do
Big Ten.
Do they get the Indiana State Championship trophy for that, or?
They should. They didn't have Butler on the schedule, or Notre Dame, I don't think. But if that's the only other 2 that were left in the state, Big 4. And I want to talk a little bit about North Carolina, Coach Trail, because we just talked about Vanderbilt and how they look forward to going to the NIT. And you got North Carolina, preseason #1 in the country. And they had 4 of 5 starters back from last year's team that just about won the national championship. Probably should have won it. They led most of the game, and they didn't make the show this year. And then they turned down the NIT bid. So I don't.
I still don't understand that one. I mean, it's just like football trying. Everybody gets a bowl game now, but you wanted that bowl game for all that time to work and be together. And why do you turn that down? I just don't understand that.
Well, here's the story. Hubert Davis, Hubert Davis? Yeah, Hubert Davis, their coach, let his players vote on whether or not to go. And the majority of them voted not to go. So the school opted out of going to the tournament, the NIT tournament. And a lot of the parents are really upset about that too, because they know that they could have used that extra practice time and play time, especially for the younger players. So a lot of them are really upset about it.
Yeah. Well, it's with North Carolina, and I went through this, Coach Trail, at a certain extent, that what North Carolina did here, but ours was a little bit different. North Carolina they folded.
Yeah, they
You
did.
know, they didn't win their league. They didn't win their tournament. They just didn't deserve to be there. But when I was a junior at the University of Tennessee, we shared the Southeastern Conference Championship with Kentucky. But the SEC rules stated that they would go head-to-head first to see who would get the bid to the NCAA tournament. And Kentucky had beaten us by 2 in Lexington, and they beat us by 1 in Knoxville. But we still tied for the Southeastern Conference Championship. But they only took 24 teams back then. They didn't take very many. So after the game was over with, there was a lot of disappointment, and Coach Mears said some things he probably shouldn't have said. And he said, you players go back to the dorm and you vote on whether you want to go to the NIT or not. I don't care what you want to do. I mean, there was just some things said that probably should have waited till the next day or the day after. And we went back, and a lot of us felt, well, heck, we finished first in the league. Why would we want to go to a second-place tournament, like the NIT? We finished first. And the vote was split. It was a closed vote. Some players voted not to go because of that fact. It was sort of like the deal out in Southern California. Southern California didn't go to the NCAA tournament with Paul Westphal that same year because they were 23-2 on the year and they lost both games to UCLA, so they didn't get to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And the Pac-12, they couldn't go to the NIT. They had a rule where they couldn't go. So there were a lot of different things, but the vote was to go to the NIT. The closed ballot vote to go. And when Coach Mears got it, he decided in his head that maybe some of his starters didn't vote to go, so he told the NIT we weren't coming. So, but that's a little different deal right there than what you saw with North Carolina. And then the next year, we went our sophomore year to the NIT. We finished second, one game behind Kentucky. And in my senior year, we lost the last game to Kentucky in Lexington for the championship, and we finished second that year. But because we turned down the NIT the year before, they didn't invite us back. They didn't invite us our senior year, so we finished second and didn't get to go. They took Alabama. But I've been through that a little bit. And, you look back on it and think, well, maybe we should have handled that differently. And I think in our case, if we'd have waited a day or so, I think we'd have handled it differently. To do something like that right after the game and everybody's disappointed is not really a good time to do it.
That's what I was going to say. That's a bad time to try to decide when everybody is.
It opens up some NIL possibilities for them because maybe you can get some deal with Uber Eats, like if you don't win, just stay home and have the food delivered. And I mean, there's some commercial opportunities in there from it, so the players might be able to make some money off that decision. But I don't think it's good for the team.
I think it sends the wrong message.
In this situation, you're a blue blood who did not live up to expectations. You've got things to work on. Even if you're going and you're not going to play the seniors and you're just going to play your new guys.
In our situation, we had one senior on the team, but all of us were coming back our senior year. So that turning down actually was used as a springboard for the next year, and we had a great year. Went right down to the last game in Lexington where we could have actually won the Southeastern Conference back to back. But this whole deal right here, I think, could really work in the wrong direction next year if they're not careful.
I think it's very hard to come back from.
Yeah,
because you've taken a sour note and you've made it worse, in a way. Yeah. I mean, the kids can go on spring break now.
Well, what?
True. I mean, maybe that seems
North
like
Carolina
you can go to the beach.
Didn't have a good year though, did they?
Huh?
North Carolina.
No, they did not. They didn't deserve to be in the tournament.
Well, that.
But falling from that, I mean, you led into the segment. They were the number one team coming into the season.
Yeah. They
were big things expected, and you've fallen all the way down, and you're just like I said, sour note, and you're just going to be like, well, let me rub it on the floor and
tell you what,
make it even more sour.
I think that coach is going to take some heat in this off season.
Yeah. Well, they went to the final game last year, had a chance to win it, but he was using Roy Williams' material.
Yeah.
He's not got to his material yet, so that made a lot of difference. Before we get out of here, Marcus, I don't know of an NCAA tournament that I can think of that's got more parity than this one this year. I mean, it's just really unbelievable. Your number one seeds, Alabama, rightfully so. Houston, they got some question marks because they got a player hurt. Their
That's
main
a
player.
whole nother
Ooh,
conversation.
boy, yeah. And in Kansas, they're right there. And then you got Purdue. Of course, they're gone.
Yeah.
And Arizona's gone, and Virginia's gone. You've got some top people. I mean, this may be a year. Can you see maybe a 8, 9, 10, 11 seed, maybe a 10 seed or 9 seed winning this thing?
I don't know about winning it. I think I think we could see an Elite Eight with a higher number, with more seeds outside of the top 2. But I don't know that when we get to the Final Four, we're going to see a lot more. I think we'll see at least 2 1 seeds in the Final Four.
Yeah. Hey, we'll take a timeout here. When we return, the Anderson Lumber Company Player of the Week segment will be up. You're listening to the Goatee Sports Page, Blount County Sports Voice, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
The Bluetick Tavern is home to the tastiest pizza in Blount County. Try our signature Broadway barbecue pizza, grilled chicken and red onions covered in mounds of mozzarella. Or sink your teeth into our one-of-a-kind chicken and bacon pizza. Made with an olive oil base, grilled chicken, bacon, red onions, and covered in Brussels petals. The Bluetick Tavern also has salads, sandwiches, and the area's largest beer selection. Regularly recognized as the best pizza in Blount County, it's the Bluetick Tavern, located at 128 West Broadway in downtown Maryville. The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month.
Your newspaper? That's right. The Daily Times is your newspaper, tailored to where you live, emphasizing the things that affect you and keeping track of the people and players in our community. The award-winning Daily Times can be delivered each morning right to your door or inbox with the latest in local news and sports. For a 30-day free trial offer, call 981-1100 and begin enjoying your life, your times, every day with the Daily Times.
Dunkin' has what you need to conquer the day. So if you want to go from, I don't got this, to, I got this, well, then get this. A bold, smooth espresso drink from Dunkin'. Like a layered velvety caramel macchiato, a rich chocolatey mocha latte, or a creamy non-dairy oat milk latte. Because this day isn't going to conquer itself. No, you're going to do that. Take a sip of You Got This with Dunkin' Espresso drinks. Order ahead on the app plus earn rewards. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary.
For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net. Waters Equipment is your East Tennessee New Holland agriculture and construction dealer. Waters Equipment has been serving Blount County for 48 years and has 2 locations in Maryville for sales and service for New Holland equipment. Offering shop and field service for trucks and equipment of all brands, Waters offers equipment rentals for New Holland skid steer, Mini X, and tractors. Call 238-9000 for your rental needs. That's 238-9000. Waters Equipment New Holland. Excellence in service. For over 90...
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, and it's time for the Anderson Lumber Company Player of the Week segment. And I'm here with Coach Ray Trail and longtime sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons and Blount County Sports Hall of Famer Donnie Moore. And we're talking NCAA basketball this morning, and we got a lot to talk about. I've written some things down here about how the Vols can make a deep run, you know, and I know a lot of people out there are saying, boy, this team is inconsistent, and I just don't know, you know, what to expect out of them. But there's some things that they really do well. I think that this team's got talent. They're capable of playing real well. They've beaten some good teams during the season, and they've got some strength on the inside, and at times they shoot the ball really well on the outside. So they got talent. They can go after, and top teams aren't going to intimidate them because they've played those teams during those types of teams during the season. They do a good job of controlling the tempo of the offense, their offense, especially if they're ahead in the basketball game. But they can control a game with their offense and their defense savvy. And I've got the asterisks right by defense. I don't think there's anybody in the country right now. They're ranked number 2 in defense, and it shows. You know, the other night against Louisiana, I don't think I've seen a team in the tournament so far that plays defense as well as Tennessee. So that's what they're going to hang their hat on. And they want to get the game in sort of a chess match. It's nerve-wracking to watch, but every possession counts, and every trip down the floor, no matter, Marcus, what stage the game is, it's an important possession with this team. And so we can watch for that as far as them making a deep run. And the other thing that they do really well is they rebound. They rebound. If you go back and look at their games, I think they out-rebounded Louisiana 37-23 the other night, something like that. But they usually have got the edge on the boards, Marcus. So there are some things you can look at here and some reasons why you can feel good about Tennessee moving on in this tournament.
You can feel good about it, and I thought it was big for Tennessee. One of the reasons they built the big lead they did was that rebounding edge, because that was Louisiana. That was what Louisiana usually does. That was their bread and butter, is that post play and second chance points, and Tennessee didn't let them do that. Unfortunately, they did some other things that Tennessee wasn't counting on that made it a little bit closer there at the end. But those fundamentals, I mean, you like to say that those are the kind of things that can carry you through, and maybe they can. But I think you've got to. There's some of those other things that we talk about. You know, you've got to be able to get a run out every now and then. You've got to do some of those other things, even if not every time. You got to make their team honest.
Yeah. If you talk about the transition game, Coach Trail, and you say, well, maybe we need to get some transition going, who have they got right out there at the guard position that can really bring that ball up quickly to run a good transition game? I don't see anybody. Do you?
No.
Don't see anybody.
If they've got him, they haven't. If they've got him, they haven't played him.
We haven't seen him
He's
yet.
sitting on the bench.
When James,
he's somewhere. I don't
when
know
James
where
was
he
a
is,
freshman and running the point, you remember that was one of the reasons Barnes didn't want him to be a point, because he was bringing the ball up too fast.
Yeah.
Because
right,
Barnes wants you to walk it up and have the post right there in front of you and bring it up and take that whole 5 seconds to get across the midcourt line.
Waller ball.
Waller ball, yeah. You know,
but
Coach
if you
Trail,
want to get up and down, he can do it.
I hate to go back to, when the day that I was playing over there, because that's when I relate.
Yeah.
But Coach Mears, he took a lot of flack early as far as playing this type of game. Really before I didn't see it. I came in '69 and he changed over, and then Ernie and Bernie came in and he just moved it even more forward than that. But he had a setup game. He had a half-court setup game. Great offense. He got it from Claire B. That was the outstanding coach at Long Island. Bob Knight took a lot of stuff from Claire B. And we ran a transition game. He ran a transition game. He was big on it, and we ran 5 guys. In other words, we got the ball on all rebounds and out-of-bounds plays. We got it to the point guard, and we got it up the court. I would say that probably half my shots came off of a transition, where he got the ball and I was on the right wing, and Woods would hit me over there, and I'd take the shot on the break. And that was a big deal. He figured out that he could get better shots off of a transition game than he could setting the ball up every time. And he ran a 5-man break, and he reasoned the guys that don't like to run the most are big guys. So we're going to run our big guys, and we're going to condition our big guys, and cause Mosky and Woodall and those guys that played on the inside, they got a lot of easy buckets because the other team's big men, they couldn't get down the court quick enough. See, when you're running 5 guys down there at one time, it's hard to cover all 5 of them, see, Coach? So he had a good system. But what I'm trying to say is he had a good defensive plan. He played a zone, and he played some different triangle and ones and box and ones and triangle and twos
Yeah.
and that type of thing. And then he had the transition game, and then he had the half-court game. That's balance.
That's right.
That's balance, and that's why he was successful. And then there was times where we didn't even get into our setup game because we got shots off the transition so many times. And then when Ernie and Bernie come in here, Lord, they probably got just about, I'd say 75% of their shots off of transition.
Yeah.
But they don't have that here. They just got a half-court game.
I don't know what kind of game they played myself. I've never played basketball, but I've watched a lot of it. But to me, I hate their offense. I hate it. I do not like the walking up the field with the dribbling, and you don't get the fast break.
Well, you're giving the defense a chance if you set up every time.
Set up every time.
You're really,
boy,
you're
it just wears me out to say, why don't you pass the ball and get on down the floor?
It's a tough.
I'd rather have more time down there around the goal than I had out here dribbling the ball.
It's a tough deal, and Marcus, it's hard to argue with it because Rick Barnes he's a Hall of Fame coach, and he's won with that, and that's his philosophy, and it's hard to argue it. Hard to watch it, but hard to argue it.
It wins, and I mean, it's not a total shutdown system. I think when he's comfortable with the players, he gives them some room to run out. But I don't think he's entirely comfortable with what this group has, like, when they've had some success, they've been able to do some of that transition, but they haven't. There's a short leash on when they can and can't do that.
Yeah. I think a lot of times, Donnie, he doesn't want to run that transition because it wears on the players. And he's afraid he may not get that effort on defense if he takes away with the run in that transition game.
Yeah,
a
I
little
think
bit.
you're right.
I may have something to do.
That could.
Well, I tell you what, if that be the case, that's what your coach is for.
Well, we back in our day we played 40 minutes.
Yeah,
we played 40 minutes and we had a transition game.
The thing is,
it's just I don't know. Or kids, sometimes when you get so muscle bound, a lot of times it takes away from your cardiovascular a little bit. Maybe they don't have the endurance, that they want. I don't know.
I tell you what, I hate to say this, and I know, like I said, I'm no basketball coach, but theirs is the most boring game to watch. I hate that walking up the floor with the ball, and when you could pass it, joop, 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 and you're down there. And if you're not in shape, that's the coach's fault.
Yeah, well, other teams are in better shape than that.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to the point I'm trying to make here. He's played this way for a long time, and he's probably not going to change very much. But he's only been to one Final Four, and he's had some pretty good teams at Texas. Marcus, can a defense-heavy team? Can they make this run in the tournament? Can they win it all? Can they be Final Four contenders? He's not proven they can.
I don't think we've seen one in a while. I mean, so that's not to say it can't happen, but if anything can happen in this tournament. But you've got to be able to score more than you let other people score on you.
Yeah.
And that's been the weak point of the wallering is it only takes 4 possessions.
I've sold Marcus wallering.
See there?
Yeah.
It only takes.
I'm telling you, you need to get a copyright for that term. They'll be using it on ESPN for long.
It takes 4 possessions, and
they won't give you credit.
Tennessee
for
goes
it.
from comfortably up 6 to down 6 and in trouble.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is because it only takes one guy getting hot for 2 minutes to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Trell, I look at some of these scores in the tournament. Kansas 96 points, Texas 81 points, and Auburn 83 points, and Gonzaga 82. I mean, I could go on and on in the first round of this tournament. That's just on one side of the bracket. That's on one side of the bracket. But we've seen this transformation in football. We've seen the transformation from defensive football to now everybody wants that wide open offense, score a lot of points. Are we starting to see that in college basketball? Is the Rick Barnes method? Is it sort of going away to the offensive game, and he's going to have to change and get with it, or it's going to be tough? Are we seeing basketball going more now toward what football? did as far as the offense,
I
moving
think
in that direction.
I think they are.
I think they are too.
So is Rick Barnes running the wing tee?
believe that.
Huh?
Is Rick Barnes running the wing tee? Is that what we're? Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
or the single wing?
Yeah.
Huh?
But I'm saying everybody sees it just like you do in the scores and stuff and everything. And it's going and paying and going to a game to watch it slow down, pass. I mean, most people don't enjoy that. I mean, it's just like in football. They come to see you score.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's
how many fans would be packing that stadium over there if this was a defensive coach that Tennessee hired over there?
We did that.
And they were, well.
It didn't work very long.
Well,
No, it didn't.
They ran out of McDonald's bags, but
let's say that they brought one in and he was winning. You know,
Yeah.
he was successful. Would you have as many seats being sold over there? I don't know. I mean, this is an exciting brand that they brought in here, and a lot of places have. You don't think that Bruce Pearl's brand of basketball that he brought to Auburn, the up and down type of game, has put fans in that arena down there?
Well, yeah.
I don't think there's any doubt about it.
See, the thing is, what happens here is just like you and me and Donnie and all of. We've been used to seeing the team that makes the most points wins. You go out, and that's the way it is. And they want, and those people up in the stands, 90% of them have not even played the game of ball. They recognize a score. You know, I mean, that's the main thing is the score. And now it's more than it used to be. Used to be, I mean, you played defense, and if you won it 10-7 or whatever, they say, well, we won. But it's not exciting.
Basketball has become three-pointers and dunks.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's exactly
what they want.
right.
That's what they want to see.
They want to see.
They want to see something exciting, you know, entertaining.
Sure.
Right.
And
if you see that over here at Tennessee, if you see that defense, they're playing that defense, and then you get a dunk, whoa!
Yeah.
Or somebody hits a three-pointer,
Yeah.
whoa!
Yeah.
You know, and other teams are doing that all the time.
all the time.
But when we see that over here,
but Tennessee,
That's a
it's
big
only on
deal.
a steal.
yeah.
It's only on a steal in the top part of the court. Do you see
Yeah.
something like that?
Yeah.
Marcus, let me ask you this: Do you think with the style that Tennessee plays right now, and the winning, they're winning, and they're putting people in here. Do you think the style of play eventually, with the offense making the move up the ladder, will hurt them in recruiting? I know if I was at, I don't know, put me at Florida or Alabama or somewhere, and I'm going for a player that's going to decide between where I'm at coaching and Tennessee. You don't think I'm going to show them some game film and say, well, if you want to go up there, and this kid's an offensive player, you want to play defense about 80% of your time? Because this is what you're going to be doing up here. You see what I'm saying? And you would use the same thing in football. You know, if you had a great quarterback and he won, and Bear Bryant's coaching, and you're coaching here at Tennessee, and you're saying, well, yeah, you come in here, we're going to throw the ball. You know, we got some pretty good. You go down to Alabama, it's going to be 3 yards.
Yeah, cloud of dust.
Your arm's going to be in reserve down there as far as throwing the ball, unless it's you just got to throw it. I mean, you see what I'm saying here?
I think it can be used against him on the recruiting trail. I think you can hear other coaches saying, "Well, you're going to have to work hard on defense at Tennessee if you go there." But in Barnes' thing, I think you've got those Sports Center type moments where you've got in the NBA where you've got guys blocking up, coming behind and blocking the layup from behind, and those sort of steals that make Rick's defense a selling point. That yes, you need defensive skills to be in the NBA.
Yeah. Hey, it's time for a break, and when we return, it's Sports Headlines with longtime Goatees sports page veteran Donnie Moore and the Tennessee Smokies Spotlight. You're listening to the Goatees sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
For over 90 years, Anderson Lumber Company in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. Locally owned, so the money made here stays here. Whether you're renovating a kitchen, bath, new floors, doors, or windows, Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store and can take care of you from design to install. We welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa for all your home's needs, or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber since 1925.
Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
We all want our loved ones to be safe. Denso in Maryville is at the forefront of creating technology for safer vehicles. Join the automotive industry with Denso in a fast, challenging, clean, and safe environment. They offer great benefits and competitive pay, as well as a convenient on-site healthcare facility, cafes, fitness center, and more. Start your future now. Entry-level production positions start at $16 an hour for second or third shift. Visit densocareers.com/Maryville to learn more and apply. Klein Dental Arts is your new home for compassionate, worry-free dentistry. You can see Dr. Todd Klein and his staff at their dental home at 1905 West Broadway Avenue across from Weigel's. Klein Dental Arts offers complete dental care for the whole family, including 24-hour emergency care, flexible hours, and thoughtful care for patients with dental anxiety. Let Klein Dental Arts be your new dental home. Discover the difference and find your smile again. Call today at 983-0941. Merlin's Music World in Maryville is owned and operated by Dylan Davis and has been a fixture in Maryville since 1987. Guitars, amplifiers, lessons, sound system, and video system installations are products available at Merlin's. Merlin's also offers a 24-track digital recording studio featuring audio engineer Rusty Chambers. Visit Merlin's at 1920 East Lamar Alexander Parkway or call 977-0093.
Make the big play with MVP Money Tools from Knoxville TVA Employees Credit Union. With KTVA ECUs, contactless debit card, direct deposits that hit up to 2 days early, credit cards that earn cashback reward points, and loans with competitive rates. Add all 4 MVP Money Tools to build your financial roster. It's everything you need to win financially.
Join us now.
Federally insured by NCUA. Equal Opportunity Housing Lender. Restrictions may apply. Call for details. 800-467-5427.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, and here with this week's sports headlines is Donnie Moore. Donnie, we've got a lot in the news. Besides the NCAA tournament,
we do, Mike. As usual, it's rolling up on springtime, and so a lot of stuff going on. I tell you what, I've got a lot of NFL news of the week, a lot of movement in the NFL right now. So let's get started with it. Longtime Green Bay Packer quarterback Aaron Rodgers is apparently done in the NFL's smallest market city and packing his bags for the league's largest market city.
Hey, if you're going to make play on words, can we say he's leaving on a Jets plane?
He is. He's leaving on a Jets plane. He's working out a deal to play football this season for the New York Jets. The Jets have sweetened the pot for Rodgers by signing former Packer wide receiver Alan Lazard to a 4-year, $44 million deal. I'm going to get to this, but you're just not going to believe the amount of money that's being thrown around in the NFL. And rumors are circulating that Randall Cobb could be their next target, which would certainly make Rodgers even more comfortable. In true "what have you done for me lately" fashion, Ray, you're going to love this. The Cowboys are releasing running back Ezekiel Elliott with 4 years left on an enormous 6-year, $90 million extension he signed in 2019. Elliott finished last in the league in yards per carry, tackles avoided, and percentage of runs that went for 10-plus yards. Guess it doesn't matter that Elliott was third on the all-time list of Cowboy rushers, rushed for 1,000 yards 4 times in his 7 seasons, and earned 3 Pro Bowl appearances. See you later.
Well,
I hadn't think he's done anything the last couple of years.
He hasn't.
He goes in the game. The back behind him actually produced more yardage than he did.
You're right.
And
like I said, it's what have you done for me lately?
That's
in
right.
the NFL.
That's right. You don't,
especially for Jerry Jones.
If you are going to earn the big check, you got to turn in big yards.
You're right.
And they can't keep a guy like that.
No.
I'd have more. The better back was the other guy.
Yeah, you're right. Pollard.
Yeah, Pollard.
Tony Pollard.
Much more progressive.
Yeah.
And a better back than he was the last 2 or 3 years. He's run a play, then he goes out. He runs a play and he goes out.
Yeah, won't be official until after June 1st, but but he's gone.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with the hits a running back is expected to take in the NFL, they're not going to last long. You're not going to ever see another Eric Dickerson type career from a running back in NFL.
Not for long.
So the fact is, he's almost 30. He's exceeded the average.
Yeah, for a running back.
For a running back,
sure.
You do not see running backs in their 30s anymore.
No.
And that's the same reason the
7
rumors
years.
are going around that the Titans are shopping a running back.
Mm-hmm.
Not to add to the rumor mill, but it's because as good as a running back can be, you've got a finite window that they're going to be able to be that good, because you're getting hit by those guys at that speed. You're not going to be able to take 20 handoffs a game for more than a few seasons.
Exactly.
Not take those kind of hits.
Exactly.
But back up to what you said about Randall. If I'm a New York Jets receiver, and they've got some really talented guys.
They do.
But they're all about 1 or 2 years into their career.
Mm-hmm.
I would be excited to have somebody like Randall Cobb on that sideline.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Because he's a journeyman, and he's not just he's not like you've got this guy used to be a slot receiver and he's still managed to hang around and catch a few balls. This is a guy who's a journeyman who has worked and made a career out of kept making the big catch over the middle and 12 yards down the field. That's the kind of guy you want in that locker room, in that position.
Like having another coach on staff, too.
I mean, that's bringing in the graduate transfer for a room full of freshmen.
You better believe it. You better believe it. Well, more NFL news. The Indianapolis Colts saved $27 million in salary cap space. Salary cap, that's a word that's a term you hear a lot in the NFL.
I'm glad they don't have that on NILs in college.
Right.
Well, does a player get that you sign, say, for 5 years, and I cut him in 2, do I have to pay him another 3 years?
Well, they have to work that out.
Depends on how the wording of the contract.
Yes.
That's why you're seeing so many players and big name players pushing for the guaranteed money.
Yeah.
Because if it's guaranteed, doesn't matter if you cut him or not. You're still going to pay him.
That's right. You still got to pay him. But the Colts saved $27 million in salary cap space this week by making 2 separate moves. The first was to cut the veteran quarterback Matt Ryan, who has expressed some interest in going into the broadcast booth. And the second was a trade of cornerback Stephon Gilmore to Dallas for a savings of another $10 million of cap space.
Well, that's what I want to know. What is cap space?
Well,
you've got so much you can spend, and there's a formula for what each contract costs you. It's not like the total value of the contract.
Yeah, it's a complicated formula.
And once you exceed that,
I don't know.
They know what it is.
Once you exceed that amount
for
the season, then you're basically paying an additional penalty.
Yeah,
well,
you have.
I mean, if a guy
either quit spending
if a guy signs for $50 million and $30 million guaranteed, okay, what if I quit?
You have. Well, they don't quit. I mean,
there's some provisions there.
I got $30 million in the bank.
There's some provisions about
I'm sure
behavior and
there's more,
quitting and
there's
things like
more
that.
to that than what we know.
Well, of course there is.
Yeah, and there's a reason those aren't public,
Right.
for the most part.
Moving on, the Indianapolis Colts. Wait a minute. No, I already did that one. Okay. Here,
Yeah,
let's
they
move.
made some
let's-
cap space, making some moves.
Yeah,
with
let's
Matt
do it.
Ryan.
Okay. With the re-retirement of Tom Brady from Tampa Bay, the Bucks this week signed Baker Mayfield to a one-year deal. Now, that seems to me like that's not much of a replacement, but we'll see. But they signed Baker Mayfield to a one-year deal worth $8.5 million.
Third team in 2
Baker
seasons.
Mayfield for Tom Brady. Not sure how that's going to work out.
It's not. That's
You're
why
right.
That's why it's
But it
just
doesn't
for 1
cost
year.
$8.5 million too.
But it
Well,
doesn't cost
I mean,
you
that, just
anything.
like that right there, $8.5 million. Okay, what if he don't even get to play? What if he don't play? He
They don't
gonna
have
get
a
$8
choice
million
right now.
They don't have any choice. They don't have anybody else.
You mean they hadn't got a quarterback?
They had a backup quarterback, but they want another year to develop him
Yeah.
before they throw him out there.
So Baker's got to play. Anyway,
It's kind of the same reason Green Bay put up with some of the drama show the
yeah.
last few seasons, because Jordan Love wasn't quite ready.
all right, listen to this one. The Vegas Raiders signed Jimmy Garoppolo to a lucrative 3-year, $67.5 million deal, with $45 million of that being guaranteed. That's a pretty good deal.
That's brave.
Yeah,
If
no
anybody's
doubt.
going to do it, it'd be the Raiders. But
Yeah.
See,
But
see
Garoppolo stays hurt all the time.
that's why
Yeah.
it's brave.
Yeah, it is.
So, see, that's what I'm talking about. You go spacing 3 years, I get $45 million guaranteed.
67 and a half
I mean,
deal with
what-
$45 million.
How
that being
much of
guaranteed.
that does he get?
Well, apparently he gets
I don't-
$45 million of that guaranteed.
Why would he keep playing?
Well,
Oh, I mean,
you
he's still got to
he's
play.
still got to play
Well, I know, but
as long as he's not hurt.
Well, that's what I'm saying. No matter how bad he is, he still plays, and he
He
gets
still
40
plays.
He's still gotta be
at
on the s-
$45
even-
million. I can go out there and imitate a run.
But when he's not hurt, he's pretty good.
He is not going to lose the game for you.
No.
I'm not saying he will win the game. He can occasionally win a game for you, but he's not the one that's you necessarily count on to
He's
win
a
the game for you.
maintenance quarterback.
But I mean, in the NFL today, that's actually saying something,
It
because
is.
it's hard to even maintain not losing the game with
Yes.
the caliber of defenses and how they scheme to stop you and break you down that way.
Couple more here. The Super Bowl winning Kansas City Chiefs lost a wide receiver, with Juju Smith-Schuster signing a 3-year, $33 million deal with the Hoodie, New England Patriots. Quarterback Andy Dalton signed a 2-year, $17 million deal with Carolina. And finally, last one that I could find, quarterback Sam Darnold signed a 1-year, $4.5 million deal with the 49ers. 1 year, $4.5 million. That's a lot of money getting thrown around in the NFL.
And we haven't even
NFL's got a lot of
I
money.
And
tell
we
you
haven't
what,
even
I'm
gotten
gonna
to
tell
the
you what,
draft.
No, not even touched the
think
draft
that
yet.
I think there's more of a catch to those things than they announce.
I'm sure there is.
You know,
There always
of course.
is.
I mean, he's paying an agent probably 20%
Oh, yeah.
or something.
Maybe.
You know,
Your-
maybe
well,
25%.
Your lawyer gets a percentage.
And
Sure,
the
everybody gets a
and-
cut.
Everybody gets
There's a
cut,
percentage cut all the
but-
way down the line.
But a losing team signs a guy and they're a losing team.
They've always got a cut. Always got a cut.
Unless you're Green Bay, you've got the money.
Huh?
Unless you're Green Bay, you have the money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, just a couple more short articles right here. Memphis Grizzlies guard Ja Morant has been suspended by the NBA for 8 games without pay for, quote, conduct detrimental to the league, end of quote. Officials announced Wednesday that the suspension follows an incident where Morant was seen in an Instagram live video holding a gun at a
Yeah, I finally
nightclub
got it.
outside
Hey.
Denver, Colorado.
I got it now. Well, I think that's
8 games.
Only pretty well normal, and they all carry a gun. I guarantee you.
Well, let's say that he was already by the Grizzlies and his own decision. He has already sat games, and those games were counted towards the 8. So I think he only had to sit 2 more additional games after the announcement. So I think he's supposed to play Sunday or Monday, or he's available to play Sunday or Monday by the league.
Yeah.
Whether he's actually back on the roster by then is something
Well, I think
indefinite.
I think basketball ought to go out to the prison and watch those guys play out there, and you ought to take some of them out.
And finally, on a sad note, Joe Pepitone, an all-time fan favorite in New York, who came up with the Yanks in 1962, has passed away at the age of 82. They called him Peppy, a local kid with a sweet left-handed swing, a slick glove, and a renegade nature. Peppy had a good arm, good speed, good judgment, and played more than 400 games in center field during his 12-year career. From 1963 to 1965, he made 3 consecutive All-Star teams. Then in 1966, hit a career-high 31 home runs. Pepitone also played for the Astros, the Cubs, and briefly for the Atlanta Braves in 1973. For his career, Pepe hit 219 home runs with a batting average of .258. Rest in peace, Joe Pepitone.
Yeah, you know what Mickey Mantle said about him, Coach Trail? He said, I'd like to buy you for what you're really worth and like to sell you for what you think you're worth, and I'd make a lot of money. But anyway.
He was a renegade.
I read this story about him last week. He played in Chicago. They traded him to Chicago up there, and he played in the outfield. And, he was like you said, he was a renegade. He did drugs and all kinds, drank and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, he served a prison term for drugs.
Yeah, and when he played the outfield, they'd throw marijuana out there and cocaine out in the outfield, and he'd take it and put it in the ivy.
Put it in the wall.
During the game, he'd put it in the ivy during the wall. And he'd go to the locker room, and DeRocher, the manager, came down here one day, and he said, Joe said, why are you staying so late? He said, he said, I like to stay late. The trainer gives me a rub down, on my back and everything. And DeRocher would leave, and he'd put his shorts on. Pepitone would. He'd go out there and get all them drugs. He'd hit out there in the ivy and take him back to his apartment. He said he loved playing in Chicago. Loved playing in Chicago. Anyway, that moves Charlie up on the list, doesn't it?
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Charlie goes up on the seniority list.
Yeah.
That's all for this week's sports headlines. Let's bring the Tennessee Smoky Spotlight into focus. Back to you, Gunner. You got another article?
I got one other deal right here. Ryan Hunter-Ray, former winner in Indianapolis, he's going to be. He's entered in the 107th Indy 500, and he's going to drive for Dreyer Reinbold.
Oh, okay.
And Dreyer Reinbold only enters cars in the 500, so he's going to drive for them. And so I think they're going to be up to, I don't know, maybe a third of the field, getting close to it with former winners. So it's going to be really competitive.
Good.
And then on another note, Jenson Button, Formula One driver, and Kimi Räikkönen, a former Formula One champion, they're going to drive in NASCAR this year. They're going to drive road courses in NASCAR, which I thought was just an unbelievable story with those two guys. But they're looking forward to it. So I know there's a lot of difference between a Formula One car and a NASCAR. They're going to put them on the road course. They're not going to do any ovals. And I think
Jimmy Johnson did it, though.
Yeah, I think each of them is going to run about 3 races. I think they're going to run Watkins Glen and the Circuit of Americas down in Texas and maybe Chicago, the street course up in Chicago. So that'll be kind of an interesting story to watch.
Interesting.
How much money do they make to win one of those races?
Well, it depends.
Depends on where they are.
It depends on.
I'm telling you, if I win it.
Yeah, well, Formula One, they got a lot more money. That's where all the money's at, Formula One. But in IndyCar, Indianapolis is where the winnings have gone up. I remember when in Indianapolis, when the winner got $1 million, and they thought that was a big deal. Of course, they've exceeded all of that.
$1 million doesn't go as far as it used to.
I guess to answer your question, to a certain extent, compared to other sports, for what IndyCar drivers, NASCAR drivers, Formula One drivers are paid, in comparisons to other sports and the risk they're taking compared to other sports, I don't think they probably get as much. They're not paid as much money.
Yeah.
We're not talking about, like these $45 million contracts, that type of thing. So.
I just wondered. I've never heard it said, how much they paid.
Yeah.
Of course, you got a whole crew that you're having to support.
Yeah, and
pay.
Sponsors are the big deal.
Yeah.
A lot of it in IndyCar. If you want to get into it, you got to bring a sponsor. You may be the most skilled guy in the whole world coming on.
But if you don't have a sponsor,
you're in trouble. You see, so you got to bring the money, with you. In a lot of those cases.
You mean you can't just call Stevenson Tire and say, "Hey guys, we're going to run a car for you"?
Yeah, you can call Stevenson Tire.
Yeah, and they're going to say, "I'll get your tires on the car for you, but you're going to have to get the engine and everything. You're going to have to get everything out." Yeah. Hey, we're back on the Goatee's sports page. Mike Edwards, along with Coach Trail and Marcus Fitzsimmons and Donnie Moore. Let's talk a little bit about the Lady Vols. I think their game's going to be going on about the same time.
They're not far away. They've got about 2 hours to tip.
Yeah, and there's going to be a conflict with them and the men playing about the same time. But the Lady Vols enter NCAA play today, and they're going to come in with an overall record of 23-11. And they got to win in a ranked team. They beat LSU in the SEC tournament, a great win for them. Their first win of the season over a ranked opponent, and they entered the top 25, got back in the national rankings since early in the season, and they're going to open play today against a number 13 seed St. Louis. And the Lady Vols come in at number 4, and Marcus, they're at home. That makes a whole lot of difference, doesn't it? Huh?
That was the question mark in that week we had to wait after the SEC tournament was over before the seedings came out, and it was all that, are they going to be a 4 or a 5? Are they going to get to host, or are they going to travel? And it makes such a big difference to them. And to be able to host means that you've got some of those comforts, but you're in the tournament and you've got that home court advantage that's still with you.
Yeah.
So that was huge for them to get that.
Yep. They made a good run in the SEC tournament. They beat Kentucky. They beat number 3 LSU. They lost to South Carolina, but that game was close for a half.
The win over LSU is what did it for them.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing. That was the thing missing on the resume, was that kind of signature win.
And, they got Rakia Jackson, they got Jordan Horston, and they're really the offense of this basketball team for them. But they can count on those two girls to get the points for them, and then hopefully some other players can add in. But I'm looking here at this tournament, and by golly, Indiana, number 1 seed. Tennessee played them right down to the end early in the year. You got UConn, number 2 seed. Tennessee played them, pretty well right down to the end. Tennessee's played South Carolina, number 1 seed, played them for a half. Tennessee's played Stanford. I guess what I'm trying to say here is Tennessee's played the best women's teams that are in this tournament, and I would say they're as prepared as anybody, to make a run, Marcus.
Once you decide on those top 16 and you start placing them as to where they're going to be and who's going to pair up with who, avoiding putting Tennessee in a rematch with somebody had to have been difficult, because they played almost the majority of the top 16 seeds.
Yeah. They got South Carolina, Stanford over on the other side of the brackets. They got UConn on their side, and Indiana's on their side. So we'll see how that plays out. But I guess my question is, can you make a run in the tournament with 2 scores? Just 2 scores?
I think you can with this tournament. I think it's like the men's to a degree. There's a lot of parity to a point. I think your top 3 seeds, maybe your top 4 seeds, are pretty much going to be your Final Four when it's all said and done. But there's a lot of basketball in between there as to who's going to be in the Elite 8.
Yeah. They get by St. Louis. They're going to play the winner of number 5 seed Iowa State and number 12 Toledo. I would have to suspect that they probably will. Of course, you never know in a tournament, but could be a number 4 Tennessee seed against a number 5 Iowa State seed. That could be some troublesome right there. It could be a little bit troublesome for them.
I mean, paper-wise, you're talking the lowest ranked number 4 and the best ranked number 5 right there. But let me say before that, if you didn't catch the name, because go ahead, it's Iowa State.
Yeah. Not Iowa.
No, it's Iowa State. But we have a former friend of the show who during her high school career visited us quite regularly, who is on the Iowa State roster and making a return to Knoxville, Dee Fritz. Yeah. So it's going to be a chance for her to play at Thompson Bowling Arena.
And that's a good program out there. We had a girl from my hometown in Greenfield play out there at Iowa State. She played there for most of her career. Then she took the COVID year and played it at a school there in Indianapolis to finish out. But that's a good program out there, good women's program at Iowa State.
I think you've got some compelling, and obviously the networks think it's compelling because Lady Vols are on ABC. They're not on the ESPN broadcast today. Right. So I think they were one of the 2 games that got moved to ABC for prime time. Yeah. Everybody can watch.
Yeah. Tennessee baseball. Go ahead, Coach Sherrill.
Now, next year, the big girl will be back at Tennessee.
That's correct. And Rakia Jackson has decided to come back next year.
Yeah.
Jordan Horston has not made a decision. So they got a score and an inside person coming back next year. So
that'll help them.
That'll help them. Yeah, that looks a little bit better than losing all of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But the big girl, she's 6'5" or something like that.
Yeah. Baseball. Number 2 Tennessee went out to Missouri yesterday to play their first SEC game. Marcus didn't turn out so good. They got beat 9-1. No runs. Couldn't get any runs. Gave up a lot of runs. Missouri got a good record. I think they're 14-3, but they're not ranked. The SEC's got 8 teams that are ranked right now. I'm counting them. But LSU's number 1, Tennessee number 2, Ole Miss number 3, Florida number 5, and Vanderbilt number 6. That's in the top 10. So it leads me to believe that there's going to be better teams in Missouri. This bad loss yesterday for them or not?
I think it's a bad loss, but I think it's what we were worried about, despite what Boy Wonder may have been telling us at time to time, is they don't have the offensive confidence they had a year ago.
No.
They lost all the starters, so they don't have that offensive confidence, and they don't have that swagger per se. They've put on some of that swagger, but they deep down, crunch time, they could not deliver yesterday. That wasn't swagger. That was something you didn't see last year, where they had one solo shot and that was it. That was the offense. And at the same time, it ran into a day where, despite a great pitcher, he had a bad day and a bad environment. And
it was
Missouri
cold.
took advantage.
It was cold as the devil out there.
Yeah, but they played at Missouri.
It was cold there.
Yep. It was cold. It was dark. It was rainy. They moved the game up. Today's game's been canceled and moved to a doubleheader tomorrow.
Wow.
I mean, it was a situation, environment, and performance that we were afraid Tennessee might see and possibly repeat.
Well, it's still the snow skiing season out in Missouri.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Baseball.
Is that where somebody pushes you around on a horse? Because I don't think there's any hills in Missouri, is there?
I'd say put his second team out
those
there so
arcs
it
are
don't
out
get
there.
cold.
Yeah. Well, if they get the doubleheader in, maybe they can salvage the series. And I think a lot of times they go by winning the series, and not just winning or losing one game or so forth. But that was a little bit surprising in the home opener that they were taking care of that conclusively, so to speak. Hey, it's time for a break, and when we return, the Shelter Insurance Bowl Predictions segment will be up. You're listening to the Goatee Sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
The Bluetick Tavern is home to the tastiest pizza in Blount County. Try our signature Broadway barbecue pizza, grilled chicken and red onions covered in mounds of mozzarella. Or sink your teeth into our one-of-a-kind chicken and bacon pizza. Made with an olive oil base, grilled chicken, bacon, red onions, and covered in Brussels petals. The Bluetick Tavern also has salads, sandwiches, and the area's largest beer selection. Regularly recognized as the best pizza in Blount County, it's the Bluetick Tavern, located at 128 West Broadway in downtown Maryville. Waters Equipment is your East Tennessee New Holland agriculture and construction dealer. Waters Equipment has been serving Blount County for 48 years and has 2 locations in Maryville for sales and service for New Holland equipment. Offering shop and field service for trucks and equipment of all brands, Waters offers equipment rentals for New Holland skid steer, Mini X, and tractors. Call 238-9000 for your rental needs. That's 238-9000. Waters Equipment New Holland. Excellence in service. For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net.
Your newspaper, that's right. The Daily Times is your newspaper, tailored to where you live, emphasizing the things that affect you and keeping track of the people and players in our community. The award-winning Daily Times can be delivered each morning right to your door or inbox with the latest in local news and sports. For a 30-day free trial offer, call 981-1100 and begin enjoying your life, your times, every day with the Daily Times.
Dunkin' has what you need to conquer the day. So if you want to go from, I don't got this, to, I got this, well, then get this. A bold, smooth espresso drink from Dunkin'. Like a layered velvety caramel macchiato, a rich chocolatey mocha latte, or a creamy non-dairy oat milk latte. Because this day isn't going to conquer itself. No, you're going to do that. Take a sip of You Got This with Dunkin' Espresso drinks. Order ahead on the app plus earn rewards. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary.
The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today: call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern, downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, and it's time for the Shelter Insurance Bowl Prediction segment. Our Goatee Sports Page crew is here and ready to go. Coach Trail and Donnie Moore and Marcus Fitzsimmons. Donnie Moore, I'm going to start with you. We've got some Cinderella teams left in this tournament. I'm counting 2, 4, 6. I'm counting 7 of them. I'm giving Cinderella status to Furman. I'm giving it to San Diego State. I'm giving it to Princeton, Northwestern, St. Mary's, Fairleigh Dickinson, and Florida Atlantic. Those are the 7, and everybody else is.
We have 3 FUs in there.
Yeah. And by the way, Donnie Moore has found that Fairleigh Dickinson is located in New Jersey.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Charlie Paleo didn't call in. He probably played against him in baseball.
He may have. I'm telling you.
That may have been one of his wins up there in college, where he played there for the
Had one of his wins.
And there's a little bit of a history right there. Fairleigh Dickinson, who was one of the founders of the university, was also one of the co-founders of the Becton Dickinson Corporation, which is a huge medical supply corporation even today.
Okay. And Coach Trail, you'll be happy to note, you've made the comment that nobody's interested in academics. Well, we got 2 academias in here. We got Princeton, and we got Northwestern. Huh? Well, you can't beat those 2 right there.
Here's the thing that blows me away. Northwestern's playing UCLA. Yep. That's a conference game in 2 years.
Yeah, that's right. They're playing out west though.
Because remember when conference games used to be, they could get on the bus and go for 3 or 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You're not taking a 3 or 4 hour bus ride from Chicago to L.A.
Absolutely not. That's a cross-continent plane ride.
That's a 3 or 4 hour plane ride.
Well, Fairleigh Dickinson and Florida Atlantic are playing each other, so one of those Cinderellas are going to be in the, in the Sweet 16.
That's a Cinderella versus Cinderella.
One's gone,
that's a lock
but
right
that
there.
means one's going to be there in the Sweet 16.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
I've never seen as many small schools moving on in the tournament. Used to be that was just that first game was elimination games. Mm-hmm. But I tell you what, there's some good teams, just like that team that beat yesterday.
Purdue.
Yeah. I mean, that team was a heck of a team.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what they fed them for pregame, but
I don't either.
go ahead and give them some more of it and maybe a little extra.
Well, it's the same thing they give it to greyhounds on the track.
It must be.
I was just watching the replay from
chasing
last night.
rabbits.
Yeah, whatever.
And one thing I'd missed last night when I watched it, the three-pointer that they hit to pretty much bury Purdue's chances from the top of the key.
Yeah.
You know who the defender was?
7-foot
center.
Yeah.
That was who was supposed to be guarding him.
Yeah, but he was so tired he couldn't jump.
He's so tired he couldn't get out there.
He was up. Couldn't jump.
He was at the foul line, and the guy's at behind the three-point center. That's
and you know
that's
how
some separation.
You know how he defended him. He just stuck his hand up and turned around and go back.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't run out there and try to block the shot or nothing. He just held his hand up.
Well, in doing a little research on Fairleigh Dickinson, they have over 12,000 on-campus students.
Damn.
So it's not a small school.
No, it's not.
Yeah. Well, you know, Princeton, way back in my childhood days, you know, they made a big run. You know, they had a pretty good player there by the name of Bill Bradley. You remember Bill Bradley playing? Played all those years with the New York Knicks. He was a Princeton graduate. I do believe he was a Princeton graduate, and they went I don't know if they made it to the final game or not. I want to think that they did make it to the final game, or at least the Final Four.
Yeah.
For sure, but what a heck of a player he's been. And Princeton has done some upsetting in the NCAA tournament in the past. You know, they have not made a long run, but they've upset some people in those first rounds because of they run a real discipline.
Yeah.
They play that Waller ball.
Yeah.
You know, they just kind of lull you to sleep with their offense and play some defense, and next thing you know, you're like Purdue. Oh my gosh, we're down, and everybody.
We're down 5.
I was looking at those Purdue players' eyes last night. They had them big carp eyes out there. And they look at you like, man, we're in trouble.
Time's almost expired, and we're behind.
We're in trouble, boys. We're in big trouble.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Ivy League still doesn't offer athletic scholarships.
I wouldn't think so.
I think it seems like there's a lawsuit in the courts going on because they don't.
Ah, okay.
Well,
but so those Princeton players, I mean, they may have academic scholarships of varying caliber, but if that's still true. They don't have athletic scholarships.
Well, now wait a minute.
I'll tell you one thing
they
about
make money from the supporters.
Well, that's true.
Now.
I'll tell you something about coaching an Ivy League school. If you're coaching one of them and you put something out there for them, you're not going to have a player go, Coach, I don't understand that.
No.
Well, that's for sure.
You better be on your P's and Q's there.
They'll look at the coach and say, you believe you're right on that? Let's go back over that again. I think you missed something.
You know, Coach, statistically, we got a 67.4% chance if we run it to the other side.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you're academic-oriented, Princeton and Northwestern's is your two schools. But we've got a good list of Cinderella teams, and hopefully some of them will still be standing, after the weekend. I've got some matchups here. Kansas and Arkansas. I like that. What do you think? You got the Razorbacks, your school? Can they handle Kansas?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
I don't think so either.
No.
Well, Bill Self's not going to be there.
Well, I don't care.
Doesn't matter. Okay, so we're going to schedule.
They scored 98
like Kansas,
yesterday.
I actually like Arkansas.
Hey, yeah.
I like Arkansas.
You like
in
the
that
upset
matchup.
right back there?
Arkansas doesn't have the domination inside. They've got some good shooters, but they don't have an inside game.
Yeah. Yep. I kind of like Arkansas in this one. I think it's one worthy of watching.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it's worthy of watching. See,
I just don't. I just
see what happens.
I don't think he can match up with
I'll tell you
Kansas.
one here that I've got down here is Houston and Auburn.
That might be a good game.
Yeah, Houston's
right there
best player, Sasser. He's having trouble, and that's sort of like Brandon Miller with Alabama. They really don't need to be without him.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I like Auburn. I like Auburn to upset Houston.
I like
today.
Auburn just because I thought it was dumb that they even played Houston. Why did they even play him in the first round? Against the 6-10. I mean, we're talking about an upset, but
they struggled with that
because
team.
he wasn't playing well because he was gingering.
Northern Kentucky.
They were looking at him to take over the game, and he wasn't doing that.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't do that, and that's what they need, don't play.
Yeah.
Let them move on from you.
Yeah. Donnie, Alabama, and Maryland. Maryland coming out of the Big Ten. They had some big wins, so they've played some really good teams this year. Can they Can they test Alabama? Brandon Miller's got a little injury. He didn't even score.
No, he didn't score.
They scored a lot of points in that first game. They had 90-some points. Yeah, 96 points, and Brandon Miller didn't even play.
Yeah, I think the Terps will hang with them for a half or shortly thereafter, but I think Bama's too strong.
Alabama, yeah. Y'all, Marcus, you and Coach Trail feels about the same way about that?
Yeah.
I don't see Maryland pulling that one off.
No, Alabama's tough, I tell you that right now.
Yeah, they to put up 96 without Brandon Miller. I don't care who you're playing. That's true. Yeah. Michigan State and Marquette. That's a Midwest battle.
It is.
Tom Izzo, and he's got them going there at Michigan State with a first-round win, and they're playing for something because they had that tragedy on campus. So but they want to go far in the tournament, and they got some incentive to play for, and then of course Marquette, Shaka.
Shaka Smart.
Shaka Smart from Texas is now at Marquette, and boy, what a job he's done. And then number two seed up there.
That's who I'm going with.
That could be a pretty good game. I like Marquette.
Yeah.
I like Marquette in this one.
Yeah,
Michigan State a little inconsistent, at times.
Izzo's a good coach, but I think I like Marquette.
He's going to go nuts over there. He's one of those guys you just wait for his head to blow off.
Yeah, he looked like. Did you watch that game yesterday?
Yeah.
I tell you
he busted his clipboard.
I tell you what,
he put that clipboard and busted it in half.
Now, that wasn't even the highlight of yesterday. Did you see the mom at the NCAA championships? Her son was a 3-time champion. He was a senior, and he lost yesterday to the wrestler from Purdue. Mom pulled her glasses off and ripped them in half and was throwing them around in the crowd.
Hey, Missouri. I think Missouri is set up pretty good here. They got Princeton, and Missouri played really well against Utah State, and Princeton had their high against Arizona. I think that's a pretty good look for Missouri today. They'd be looking at Arizona, and they're looking at Princeton. So, if Missouri advances, there's a possibility of them going on. But heck of a job out there. I like Missouri in that one.
And that's that coach's first year.
Yeah, first year out there. And they were, 6 games or 7 games, something like that the year before? That's a well-coached basketball team, boy, that Missouri team.
That guy's.
And they were impressive in their first win out in the tournament.
Yeah.
Marcus?
We're done.
We're done.
Yeah, we got to get out.
Okay, Duke and Tennessee, real quick.
I'm taking Duke.
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 Well, the final whistle's blown, and Mike is looking for his whistle card.
Hey, that'll do it for today's edition of the Goatee Sports Page. Thanks to Aaron Ishmael at Loud Media, our host, the Bluetick Tavern, and all our sponsors. For Donnie Moore, Ray Trail, Marcus Fitzsimmons, Troy Provo Heron, and Brian Johnston at Goatees. Until next Saturday, this is Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, wishing everyone good sports.